is over that slump. He is looking fantastic. herO has just been finding his groove recently. But of course, Serral has absolutely ridiculous Zerg versus Protoss. For years, it's just been rare to see Serral drop maps, let alone series, to Protoss players. But is he going to be able to bring that level of control? Because herO at the moment has something special going for him, and that is a perfect blending of his chaotic aggression, where you never know what he's going to do, and he could pounce at any moment, but he combines that with perfect early game macro. His openings are crisp and very hard to keep up with. He puts pressure on his opponents from the start. In the right side of Ghost River, a Protoss player who's been on a tear lately. Representing Dragon Kaizi Gaming, it is herO.
And in the top left side of the map on Ghost River, looking to book his ticket into the playoffs, the greatest Zerg of all time, arguably the greatest player of all time, it is Serral. And what a treat this match is going to be. You can tell the audience absolutely pumped for it. I cannot wait to get started. And already we have a very early probe coming out from herO, blocking the natural expansion. Serral, not batting an eye, immediately takes the third.
Yeah, his Overlord, the moment he saw that probe, he powered up a 17th drone, went to the third base, and he's happy to just get that ling speed and protect it. It's a hard to defend third base, right? It's pretty far out there, but I think not panicking and just sticking with this method will be fine for now. herO harassing the workers there, of course, trying to bounce them off that mineral patch. Only one worker can mine at a time, but if he just stops mining quickly before actually harvesting the 5 minerals, you can see they're denying a good bit of Serral's mining and just making that early game difficult.
Yeah, PVZ, when you send an early probe scout like this, I believe it was the 13 pylon scout coming in from herO, you lose a little bit of money back at home because this probe obviously isn't working, and it's micro like this that herO's doing on screen right now that kind of makes it pay for itself because they're also costing your opponent a little bit. And I can't wait to see what kind of aggressive builds herO is going to bring to the table in this one, because beyond any doubt in this matchup, I feel like herO is going to be the aggressor from game 1 to game 3. I would be surprised if the roles were reversed, but Serral is one of the best defensive players of all time, and it's just tough to think about exactly how these two are going to line up. I mean, herO, 217 Stargate coming in, not missing a single beat despite the early probe scout, asking for a pause very briefly. But as you were saying, Pig, in a matchup that I believe more than potentially any matchup in StarCraft 2 is dependent on the early game.
Yeah.
herO has perhaps the best early game in PvZ of anyone in the world.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the only person I can see coming close to him recently is MaxPax, where they both have this fluidity with their Oracle Adept where you don't know where they're going to hit. And like, it looks like you're defending well when you move out with your queens to intercept, but it's almost always a bait, and they like loop around the back and go, nope, you left your mineral line exposed for just 2 seconds. That's 3 drones. I'll get in, I'll get out. And, you know, I feel like herO is so very good at doing that. But of course, Serral, as you said, very controlled and contained. Now, if Serral gets a good read on his opponent, he does a lot of reactive timing attacks in this matchup, but it's only if he can scout what you're doing and identify a weakness, right? He mixes in a lot of like cheesy ZVZ builds, Zerg vs Terran builds. That's part of being Serral's evolution over the last few years, is where he went from, you know, a very consistent player who always defended every game. Now he mixes in so many kind of off-color weird openings, catches his opponents off guard. This is, I would say, his most standard matchup, where he does like still just adopt that defensive stance. But if herO gets a little bit overly fancy, you got to be wary. You know, Mass Roach Ravager, Queens getting taxied to the other side of the map. These things are all in the arsenal of Serral.
Absolutely agree with you. Is Stargate finishing up, and it's actually going to be a Void Array opening here from herO. Not necessarily what I had expected to begin, and of course, here on Ghost River, this Adept can be so annoying. Trying to get 1 drone kill. Serral morphing a Spore Crawler, able to dodge that last shot. The Adept will survive.
Very nicely played. The Void Ray, of course, denies vision, sets you up. A lot of the time, Void Ray goes into the 4-gate Glaive Adept, right? That's one of the most common follow-ups, but often, it could be 2 Stargate as well. Sometimes you just take a third and play Blink, but the Void Ray denies information, and it makes it harder for the Zerg to figure out, like, is there something tricky? Should I be building Roaches blind? Should I be trying to get up a Spire, you know, to counter air units? And that's what just adds that little bit of guessing game where Serral is going to need to show his scouting prowess and his skill as the first Overlord goes down. The third Nexus is placed. That's going to put Serral in a little bit of a supply block.
And it seems like herO is just going to play this with a little bit of greed, immediately throwing down the third Nexus. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him follow up after perhaps the second Oracle, a Twilight Council and a Forge, and go into Blink play, because here on Ghost River, as you were pointing out, that third base can be a little bit difficult to defend. And hold on for a second, because this is one of the weaknesses of going for that Void Ray first, because you don't have too much defense back at home. These Adepts getting surrounded at the third base is going to force the Adept from the wall and to come back in. And this is a pretty favorable trade here for Serral. Picking up 2 of these early Adepts. Usually in a matchup like this one, especially if you're a player like herO, you would love to continuously warp in Adepts to a count of about 6. Then send them across the map, try to pair them up with the Oracle, as Pig was mentioning before, to find damage as you transition to something like Blink, like Cluster Run ground weapons, as you continue to scale on your side of the map. So Serral kind of taking a little bit of that momentum away, actually pulling a drone with this.
Yeah, the accidental drone gets control group, wants to be one of the boys. I want to fight, I want to get revenge. They killed my drone friends and I want to get them back. But no, does get sent home to go back and mine. That's going to be the best way you can contribute to the war effort, mate. Oracles are going to come forwards towards the natural right now. Let's see how good Serral's defense is. 2 Queens and a Spore, well placed. Serral really on point with his defense, and herO not trying to force the issue just yet. He tries to skirt through the main, but good focus fire. You can see the Queen focus firing the low hit point Oracle, and that Stasis Trap, all it's going to do is deny a tiny bit of mining. He's so smooth with that defense. This is the Serral difference. The early game ZVP of Serral is disgustingly good. You just can't find openings.
Yeah, herO's struggling to get really anything done. Now with the Void Ray coming in, it could charge up on that 4th base and potentially force the Queens out of position to make room for the Oracles, but no, instead herO actually just going to activate both of them. He wasn't able to use that energy earlier. That is going to force a cancel and a drone kill here for herO. So you can't win everything. Just take the fights that you can, and that hatchery kill, herO's going to be happy with that at the very least. I mean, not getting drone kills is very painful, but a matchup that is so dependent on early game in PvZ. Oh my goodness, herO, what are we doing?
Yeah, he was distracted. The Adept got jumped on by the Zerglings in the middle of the map, and he does lose a Void Ray and an Adept or 2 there. That starts to shut things down. Serral, 6 workers ahead, already into Roach production. Roach speed's on the way, +1 range, and a Hydra Den. Now, a lot of people still think of Serral as that guy who's going to play safe Hive every game, but no. Says, no, I've got an advantage. I can swarm you with Roach Hydra. If I just get a ton of Roach Hydra out, that same style we just saw Dark do against Trigger, it's really difficult to stop if the Zerg has a good early game.
Yeah, especially against somebody that's playing pure Stalker the way that herO is back at home. He is building a cannon, but primarily this is just going to be pure gateways. Stalkers with +1 ground weapons and a lot of Blink, as herO is hoping to get some damage done, but once these Hydras come out and they add the DPS on the back line of the Zerg army and they pair with the Roaches and the Ravagers and the Queen on defense, I don't think herO is really going to have any room to start getting damage done unless he gets some insane trades.
I mean, yeah, it's more about surviving, right, than getting damage once the movement comes across the map in maybe a minute's time. Serral will move out. It's going to be like, okay, I'm building a gateway at the front. herO does this every game. Roddy was talking about that earlier. You know, you can expect the forward gate blink pressure, but, I mean, you're going to get swarmed, and having your production on the other side of the map can get a little bit dangerous. On the other hand, Stasis Traps, Blink Stalkers, both being microed pretty well so far. The Zerglings not finding any actual damage. Technically, you can defend anything with Blink Stalkers, right? It doesn't scale that well, but if you're blinking back, you're using battery overcharge, if you get enough Stalkers, you can defend anything.
In theory, yeah, but it's hard to pull off against a player of Serral's caliber, especially with this kind of unit composition that he's running Roaches and Hydras. But at least to this point, herO has been taking very favorable trades, but now Serral's hand is getting revealed. The Roaches and the Hydras still not yet in critical mass. In these small numbers, herO still can slowly creep forward, find some damage, blink back, just shave off a couple of Roaches, a couple of Hydras, get some damage done. Because really, without the Roach buffer that Serral has, these Hydras, they would go down fairly quickly to these Stalkers.
Yeah, I mean, this is really good micro, but I don't think herO should be committing in, should he? I don't think he can actually overwhelm Serral, but it looks like herO is stuck in an aggressive mindset when he needs to be flexible and he needs to be defensive right now. I think picking off units is good, but he's going to commit! That is a crazy attack from herO, trying to bust through Serral's defenses. Quite a few Hydras go down pretty quickly. Bile does land on the Stalkers. The Stalker micro blinking back, but there's plenty of Roach Hydra left over. Only 2 drones falling, and all of the Oracles and Zealots just get flushed down the toilet.
Yeah, that was an ambitious blink forward there by herO as he continues to warp in Stalkers on the back line, but the Hydra count's basically dissipated here for Serral. It's only 3 standing in the front line, and this is where the Stalkers can start to get even more value. Watch us see herO try and shave away as many roaches, as many lings as possible. And while that wasn't ambitious, Blink Pig, did a very good job of isolating those Hydras on the left side with the Oracles, getting damage done. But the question is Serral's Remax a little bit too much here as more roaches and more Hydras are streaming in? Now, on the other side of the map, herO, he's starting +2 ground weapons. He's building a 4th base, which Serral now is scouting. There is a fallback plan, but he is stuck in this unit composition where he constantly needs to fight, because if Serral just builds roaches and Hydras with no chip damage and moves across the map, herO is dead. He needs to bring this fight, and he knows it. 2 more Robos in production.
Yeah, as you said, you need to be able to picking off units as they come across the map using the Blink micro to maximum effect. If you sit at home, you don't get enough room to micro. But even here, you can see a couple of Stalkers go down for a few Roaches. Roaches, much cheaper units, much more cost efficient if you're trading even numbers. The Zealot's getting surrounded by the Zerglings. 4th Nexus did get cancelled before. It's now being rebuilt, but he should be able to get that up with just a few more Warpins on that side of the map.
And now the Hydralisk count is getting to a point where Blink Stalker Micro becomes nigh impossible with the amount of damage being dished out. Even without this front line of Roaches, I mean, there's only a handful of them on the map right now with more in production. These Hydras, they might seem like glass cannons, but they are not, as the surround comes in from Serral, attacking both on the bottom left and the bottom right side. herO going to blink up to the north, trying to escape the situation, but you can see the firepower of this Zerg army levying so much damage on the herO. You need to retreat from this position, herO.
Oh gosh, oh gosh. I don't think he can squeeze them all up that high ground with the Blink. He doesn't have vision.
He barely has vision on the right side. Blinks 3 Stalkers just to get enough to retreat, but the damage has already been done. Look at the army supplies, Pig. 54 to 108.
Yeah, I think herO, he could have transitioned off this build, but the moment he committed with the Zealots and the Oracles, he gave up so many units. And remember, Serral is doing a giant attack. He was always planning to do a big attack. herO got overly aggressive into it, and he's kind of handed beautiful engagements. I mean, that force field is nice. This is Clutch holding on. He is evening it out a little bit, but just there is an endless swarm reinforcing across the map.
And look at the focus fire by Serral. Takes down every individual sentry, knowing that really the only way he loses these engagements is his force field sections off his armies. Even battery overcharge is not enough to save that Immortal as it falls almost immediately, but Serral, not having the concave that he had hoped for, is going to retreat from this position and set his eyes on the 4th base.
Battery overcharge is going to wear out there, which means he's now going to go for this 4th base that's a little more exposed. The battery and the cannon will fall. Stalkers come in from behind, but that means they've got Lings and Hydras rallying on top of them. An intelligent pullback on the right side for Serral as he chases these Stalkers down.
Yeah, those Stalkers are in a world of hurt. He'd be lucky to have even a couple of them survive here as Serral is on the hunt. Those 5 Stalkers cornered here by the Hydras and the Roaches. He's going to trade him out, try and shave off as many Roaches and Hydras as he possibly can. I mean, he does get his money's worth. At least 3 or 4 units do go down, but the problem is the army Serral is amassing. More Ravagers, more Lings streaming in, Hydras and Roaches coming together. This 4th base, I think it is not long for this world, Pig.
And not overcomplicating it at all. Serral stopped at 65 workers. He made Hydras, he made Roaches, Ravagers, and Zerglings. He defended, and then he went and attacked. He knew that herO was putting himself in a corner, and Serral adapted to the opponent and countered it. What he is known for doing over the years, and he does it once again so fantastically. herO just cannot keep up with the endless reinforcement of Zerg across the map.
Just the early aggression from herO was not enough, and GG is called, and Serral shows he is still the man to beat here at DreamHack. I mean, what an incredible match there to start things off against herO, the best Protoss player in the world, and he's looking a little frustrated, Pig.
Serral's early game is disgusting, mate. It is so good. That defense, his ability to block things on every different side. The Oracles cannot find a way in, and Depth can't find a way in. I mean, this cancel on the 4th was the first significant damage in the game, but it didn't really matter because Serral was always planning to stop at 3 bases of workers and to defend with mass Roach Hydra. And even though a lot of Hydras got shot down at the start of this fight, the drone pool was really well timed. Serral used those drones to tank just a little bit, but he'd already crushed the Zealots, moved in, started to flank these armies. And the moment the Hydras were able to split into multiple packs and section off the Stalkers, that's where things got out of control.
And just watch the focus fire here on the Hydras. They take down basically every sentry right there. Those ones are in the front, but you can notice here, there's one force field left for herO, and those Hydras, They barely take it down, knowing that force field basically the only path for victory here for herO, as he basically locked himself in on this gateway-based composition with only Immortals to support. And when it comes to Roach Hydra, I mean, Roach Hydra, not the best composition, but against gateway units, it sure is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the big things that counter that are Disruptors, Colossus, right? It's like consistent long-range splash damage units that just do massive, massive damage over time. But in that case, Stalkers and Zealots, a composition where you know herO just wants to keep attacking into you and trying to get the momentum, especially on that map, where herO has shown that he is so successful with that forward gateway blink aggression. And he's like, you know what? I am not going to take any chances. Play it safe, shut it down. So going to map 2, back to the drawing board for our Protoss player. He's going into Oceanborn in the bottom right spawn, representing Dragon Kaiser Gaming. It's herO.
And just one map win away from the playoffs, representing Basilisk, it is Serral. And even backstage here, we can hear the fans cheering for the greatest foreign player of all time. I mean, really, what a tremendous game number 1, just absorbing the impact of herO, rolling with the punches, and really kind of playing the opponent as well as the map. He did not overcomplicate things, just as you said. Going for the Roach Hydra composition, on paper, you know, not the best in a standard PvZ matchup, but against herO, you kind of know he's going to be the aggressor. You know he's going to attack into you, and Serral is basically pumping Roaches and Hydras on a low drone count, only on 4 bases. And herO is still effectively all in with his 3-base aggression, and you can see how close that game was. herO is no slouch when it comes to these aggressive plays, but if they don't work in a moment like that one against the composition that Serral is running, the writing is on the wall. You're on a timer.
Yeah, it felt to me like herO was a little bit on autopilot. I don't think he scouted that the 4th base was empty of drones. I think he kind of went, yeah, okay, there's some Hydras, but you're probably trying to go Hive, you're trying to go Lurkers and Vipers. Because normally he's so used to playing against these Zergs who do that. They're like, let's get a second evolution chamber, Hive, we're going to take 8 gases, 75, 80 drones, and yeah, your Blink Stalkers can overwhelm them. But if he had the full context of that and knew that Serral was on 65 workers, no mining on his 4th, I mean, it just makes sense to chill, to kind of pick away with the Stalkers, but don't commit with the Zealots, transition into Storm or some sort of robo splash damage tech. And I think if herO made that transition, we would have been forced to see a longer game. But as it is, first-person views of both players, herO on the left side of the map, our Protoss player, and of course Serral on the right side. Both players have been known to give viewers on their streams, you know, a little bit of dizziness, a little bit of, oh God, I suddenly feel sick if you get the motion sickness and that sort of thing, as they do spam around a lot. Serral is very methodical, but as all the young generation is, you'll notice, like, if you study his control groups, they're very fluid. Like, his army groups change around based on the situation, and if you ask him to explain it, sometimes he gets stumped a bit because it's so fluid, he doesn't even put it into language. He's not like, this is always my main army, that's always my secondary army. There's so many minute variations within there that he adjusts to based on the situation.
herO does basically the same thing, the Protoss version of it, which is not use control group and then F2 your army.
herO's is actually crazy. His whole system where he's like, I just control group the thing I looked at last. I'm like, and I've asked him about it so many times, and every time he's like, oh no, I don't think it's good. It's just this weird thing I somehow started doing. It's super weird, I know. And I'm like, no explanation at all, really? And he's like, nah, it's just like a weird thing. It seems to work for me. And I'm like, okay, herO, you're actually just one of the most unique players when it comes to your mindset. He's just got his own strange way of playing the game. I love it.
And the funny thing is, he is arguably the best control of Protoss players in the world. I mean, it's either him or MaxPax, right?
So good.
It's insane.
I mean, obviously, yes, like, he does handicap himself by using F2 a little bit too much and then having to, like, fix up orders where he, like, pulls units out of his wall off and stuff. But there's just something about his fluid ability to handle chaotic situations like 5 or 6 unit groups that no one else can match herO in that regard.
All right, well, herO building up back at home, going for his second Oracle. These 2 Adepts paired with the first Oracle going to try and find some damage. Serral's early game defense was effectively impenetrable in game number 1. We'll see if herO can do better, but, you know, I think actually herO is showing a lot of respect with this move out because basically every PvZ in GSL, if you watch him in some of the crowdfunding tournaments such as the KSL, these weekly events that happen or bi-weekly events, he's always going something like 5 or 6 adepts, 1 or 2 oracles, trying to get something done. But the fact that he is investing so little and trying to get the damage, just 2 adepts, the first oracle, second oracle also coming in quite late. Okay, here's the other ones, but generally speaking, herO a little bit more aggressive with these early game units than he is here against Serral. I think partly knowing that it's harder to get something done against this guy compared to everybody else. There's a reason on the cards his defense is like, what, 99?
And he's seeing it as well.
Oh.
This isn't blind reacting. He's seeing the queens and lings, and he's going to shade out here, I believe. Oh, he's going deeper. Actually, Oracle's going to dive back around to the third base, potentially. Adept's going in towards the main. The lings are tracking it. Nice cancel into recall. If he can preserve all of these adepts, what's he spent? A bit of shields. He's wasted mining time, and it's good to not overreact. The problem is, Serral's still up 10 workers. Serral has still done an incredibly smooth early game and is finding leads for himself based off of this.
And the really funny thing is you see how much herO is trying to finesse any damage he could possibly do.
Wow, even more
a recall with Shades, coming to the natural into the main, not able to get anything done, and Serral just barely missed the wall, and he's going to have to cancel that to allow these lings to flood in. But the Adepts actually working their way into a corner is going to allow those lings to have to move into another position, and now herO actually in not the worst spot. Listen to a lot of potential damage that can come in the main base pick. They're talking about that drone count. Look at it, already 4 going down.
They don't have glaives, but they still do good damage against these drones and Zerglings. And look at that, 9 drones going down, forced the Evo Chamber cancels to happen as the Warlock didn't get up and finds himself a decent trade out after what it looked like an early game that didn't really find the damage. So far now, the worker count is dead even. Blink and +1 are both almost finished, whereas +1 range and roach speeds just started for Serral. Serral's also getting a little bit close to supply blocked right now as he adds more workers. herO's going straight for a 4th base. We're going to see Gateway Man up against Roaches to start in Game 2. It's going to be a big kind of mass expanding, mass economy, but lots of low-tier units will be clashing for map control.
Yeah, it seems like Serral is going to be playing a very different game from game number 1, already throwing down that infestation pit pig. And do you think this is going to be him trying to go and do relatively fast hive here? Do you expect to see a couple of infestors who try and get fungals on these stalkers and prevent them from blinking away from the roachling?
I'd love infestors. If it was my man Dark, I think there's actually a chance of that. Serral, almost 0% chance of infestors coming out, even though a couple of them is not a bad idea. I expect what you said at the start, like fast hive lurkers. I think this is going to be really generic Zerg play. Serral's up 5 workers. He doesn't have casters on his 4th base just yet, and we are going to find out in a moment which way he will be committing. Stalkers on the front, grab an Overlord, blinking away. Real finesse there for herO as he adds a 2nd Forge, extra gateways, cannon and batteries on the 4th, and there we go. The Hydra Den and the Hive. It is indeed that lurker transition for Serral, but it's been slowed down a little bit. I like the way herO's both being greedy and applying pressure. It's a mixed bag. This is not easy for Serral to handle at all.
Yeah, I think herO's having one of the best early games that he could possibly hope for against a player of Serral's caliber coming in here, adding in 3 additional gateways. More stalkers want to be reinforcing as he tries to really control the creep spread, and he's been doing a great job of it. Now, actually, Serral coming in for what looks like a bit of an engagement, maybe not anticipating quite this many stalkers, but he's able to defuse with just 3 lings.
It felt like the
trap, so?
Yeah, the stasis trap was a little bit so-so. Oracles, though, 5 Oracles do take down 4 Queens, but at what cost? He's going to kill 4 Queens for 3 Oracles, and that's like, it seems like an okay trade if it allows you to then get more damage done, but it doesn't in this case, right? Because you're not really able to clear creep that much here. There's 11 Hydras about to come out. herO takes a very early 5th base. Wow.
I think he knows that Serral's going to be on his side of the map for the foreseeable future right now as he's trying to get this layer tech, or not the layer tech, the hive tech with lurkers online. And I actually don't mind him trading out 2 oracles for all those queens because he is really just trying to play the map controller game right now. I wouldn't be surprised if herO's game plan moving forward was just trying to delay the 5th base of Serral for as long as humanly possible. And one good avenue of making that easier later on the road is just controlling the creep spread here as herO. And once more, another revelation dropped. Queen energy a little bit more sparse, and even with these stalkers, he's trying to find more damage.
Yeah, I mean, a couple stalkers going down each time, but the Zealots starting to come in now as well. Zealots have +2, so those Zerglings ain't going to do well versus them. But a bunch of them did get surrounded. Stalkers pushing in the right side. The Roach Hydra's ready for it. Zealots are being dealt with in the picture-in-picture. You can see they are taking out a few Hydras before they go down, but good micro by Serral. His attention to detail in the midst of that. He pulled 2 Hydras away from the Zealots, kept them alive. Lurkers are now morphing. Second Evo's coming in with the melee upgrades. And we've got a triple robo transition for herO. He doesn't want to stay gateway man for long.
Triple robo transition here against Hive Tech Lurkers, and it's going to be Serral Hive Tech Lurkers. Concerns me a little bit because, you know, in theory, on the ground, Zerg wins out with Lurkers against a pure ground-based army unless they're absolutely able to pull them out of position somehow as the Protoss player. And I'm not sure herO's actually going to be able to make that happen in this situation. And the fact that you're committing the resources to 3 robos means herO's only path to victory here, it's basically going to be on the ground unless this game goes super late.
I think, you know, Immortal Storm does really well, but when you're this far behind the curve, like you said, like there's going to be like 15 Lurkers and you're going to be getting your first like 5 Immortals out. There's no Storm, there's no Disruptors. A few Disruptors I think would be so good when you're this far behind against Lurkers because you just need something to hold them back.
And the Zealots getting caught by the Lurkers. They're going for the 5th base. They will be cleaned up. And man, Serral, he's able to siege down the triangle third here of herO.
Oh god.
With these Lurkers, this could be devastating. Wait, is this where the Robos are? There's one right there by the 3rd. Could be a lot of damage. Another Zealot run by going into the 4th base here of Serral is getting tons of damage done.
Wow, okay, the army's rotating south for Serral right now. He's going to look for that 5th base. A couple of Lurkers do get caught out, but look at how quickly the Stalkers die when the Lurkers start landing their shots. I actually feel like Serral probably could have pushed on the Robos on the 3rd. It would have been a risky move, so of course, not Serral's main way to play, risky. He's still going to take out the 5th base in the south, putting herO back to 4 base. herO does cancel a base up north with Zealot. Immortal Stalker running in. I don't think there's enough numbers here for herO, though. The Immortals are going to get taken out. Zealot's trying to warp in on the left side, but the Immortals are already gone.
Immortals are gone. Most of the Lurkers were being able to get cleaned up right there. And look at the worker counts, 71 to 84. So losing the 5th base here for herO. He still does have the fallback plan of the 4th, but I'm concerned about the army that Serral has back at home because while it may look like herO is stabilized here on the front lines, Serral has 114 army supply, only 70 drones and nearly maxed, and that's where it is, right there on screen. 5 Zealots, 4 Immortals, 3 Archons. I don't think you stop these Lurkers.
That is just so many Lurkers, and you need like, got 8 Immortals and some Psystorm and a good flank to deal with this. These are things that herO does not have right now. Serral's preparation in the early game, the details allowing him to navigate all of that chaos, all of that harassment that herO normally gets ahead of. It just puts him at best in an even position against Serral. That is the power of Serral. Now with Mass Lurker sieging this base, 1 Lurker goes down, but those Immortals are already almost gone.
Yeah, the SimCity even working against herO a little bit as he was trying to get an arc on those Lurkers, and with these 4 Archons coming on the top right side, he might just try and find the angle to attack in. Serral retreating.
Serral's so good at pulling out when he thinks he's about to get flanked. He's so good about those unburrows on the Lurkers. Roach Hydra there pushing in a little bit. Ling starting to come in on the Archon flank and get taken out. The Lurkers moving forward in sections. It's like a giant tank push. Very hard to deal with for Protoss. herO's just going to go across the map to counterattack. He says, you know what, I can't fight that front on. Let's go across the map. A sure sign of desperation for the Protoss.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is going to be the winning play. It's just so many Lurkers, even with these more Immortals reinforcing here on the 3rd base. I don't know if he can actually hold on back at home. And look, there's even Lurkers at home. Here for Serral, they will get cleaned up as there's 5 Immortals and a ton of Archons taking down this 3rd base. But really, herO very soon will be reset down to basically no economy, to basically no production. He's losing Robos, he's losing gateways here on the front line. And I'm not sure this is going to be enough here for herO. He is getting a lot of damage done on Serral's side of the map, but is there a world where this is going to be enough, Pig?
We just need a mothership to flight in from the edge of the map, from a different map, recall 10 carriers, and then I think Serral's in trouble. But right now, Serral just has a massive army. This is only part of his army, and yet he's engaging anyway.